Welcome to part 5 of behind the scenes how I built the 10-gallon Dripwall terrarium. In this video we're going to create the PVC plumbing line which drains into the sump. I'm going to explain how the setup works, show you how I made it, and give you some valuable tips that'll help you for any future plumbing you might do. Let's go ahead and get started. Now that the drip system is working, the next step is to create the plumbing, which is going to allow the water to drain back out and go to the sump. Here's a little sketch I did that shows the layout of the plumbing. This is the bulkhead right here, and then it has a PVC T right here, and then there's a cap right there with a little hole drilled in it, and I'll explain why in just a minute. And then the PVC comes down here, has an elbow, comes over, and then another elbow, and the water is just going to drain right through here, drain right into the sump there, and then I'll have the pump in there that's going to pump the water back up to the return at the top. So this little piece right here with the hole drilled in it, the reason why you do that in this case is because the water is at the level of the bulkhead, and I am letting the water essentially just overflow right out. And so the problem is that if the water level is at the level of the bulkhead and it's just overflowing out, the flow of the water going through the pipe starts to suck air through there as well, and so you get a gurgling sound that gets pretty annoying and pretty loud because it's sucking water and air at the same time, and it's bubbling and gurgling right there. So what you do is you create a T on the outside of the tank, and you make sure of course that all of this is higher than the level of the water, and then you drill a little hole right there in the cap, and what happens is the air gets sucked through there, and then the water gets sucked through here, and so you end up getting a smooth flow of water right down through that pipe, and you don't have any gurgling, and everything flows really nicely. Here's some of the plumbing supplies that I got. These are a bunch of different fittings that are PVC Schedule 40, and I picked up a nice set of PVC cutters that you can use to cut pipes. Then we have the chemicals that we're going to be using. You need the primer and the cement, and in this case I got the all-purpose cement because the bulkhead is made out of ABS, and so you want to be sure that you have a cement that's going to be able to glue the PVC to the ABS. I also picked up this great little tool that allows you to open and close those cans a lot easier. It just wraps around the lid there, and then you squeeze these two together to get that grip, and then you can turn it. And it has a little pry bar right here to be able to lift open cans that have snap-in lids also. And of course, safety gear when working with chemicals that are harmful, that you're breathing fumes. You're going to want to wear a respirator, and then of course you're going to want to wear gloves to protect your hands from those chemicals. Next, I took the measurements for the bulkhead, the height down to the sump and distances and all of that, and then I started to dry test fit some fittings, and I just slipped together some pieces of PVC, elbows and so forth, so that I could plan ahead, and then once I knew that this was the correct plumbing setup, then I could go ahead and use the solvents and connect everything together. This right here is a union. This right here is a free spinning nut, and so you can spin this, and then this part right here and this part right here come apart, and there's a little rubber gasket inside that seals the pipe together, so you can attach and detach these two ends of the plumbing fittings. The reason why I did that is so that I could attach this part right here to the bulkhead of the tank, and then I could spin this right off and take this entire assembly of plumbing off of the tank. So just this part would be attached to the bulkhead, and then I can move the tank around, maintain things, or do whatever I need to do. So that's a modular plumbing system with a union. Because you have to work quickly with the solvents and chemicals, and because there's a lot of mess going on, I did not take any photos or video of the process, but let me show you the final piece here. This is all glued together with the solvent, and here's the back of the tank. There's the bulkhead right here with the nut that tightens against the glass. Then I have the union attached right into the bulkhead, and then the rest of the plumbing that drops the water down into the sump. and there's the return line from the pump that pumps the water up to the top. Here's a view of the sump, and this is just kind of a preliminary design. This was not super well thought out. It was just kind of getting things into a testing mode. It's just a prototype and a beginning phase, so I might end up improving this at some point. But essentially, this is the pipe that comes out of the back, and then the water just drains through some filter media, and then out of that, and then down into the rest of the sump. Then here's the pump right here. This is a detailed shot of the return line at the top of the tank. I threw some clamps right on here to make sure that the vinyl hose stayed onto the PEX fittings, just to ensure that there's no leaks. And here's the pump that I used. It's just a generic pump that I got on Amazon. There's not really any like brand name. It's just kind of a, made in China type of thing. It's a really nice pump though, and it was inexpensive, and it was strong enough to pump the water through all of the drip hose. Then I got this ball valve right here, put that in line, because when I adjusted the water pump output to the lowest setting, it was still pumping too much water into the tank, and so I basically throttled that back by putting an inline ball valve in the return line, and that way I could ensure that the water was draining out of the tank faster, or at least at the same amount as the water going in, to ensure that the water level stayed where I wanted it.